Today I stand here with all of you, not just as a colleague, but as a proud grandson of Yeprem and Raya Nazarian, who were forced out when their city of Shushi was burned down in 1920. And it gave me great pleasure and honor to 94 years later visit the same city and be welcomed by them along with my colleagues. And as most of them would attest, by almost half the city being present there. For years, we have stood up in commemoration of the Armenian genocide in these chambers. And though we remember and commemorate, there are still those who deny that the Armenian genocide ever occurred despite the vast amount of evidence to establish it as a historical reality, very similar to the Holocaust. As we near the centennial of remembering the Armenian genocide, we are painfully reminded of a familiar past. Today, though not a genocide, an ongoing situation is currently taking place in the ancient Armenian town of Kesab in Syria. With the help of the Turkish military, militants have sieged this peaceful civilian town inhabited largely by Armenians. Thousands have had no choice but to flee to neighboring cities, taking refuge and shelter in churches. Dozens remain unaccounted for. There are multiple credible reports of homes having been looted and occupied, hostages taken, killings committed, and yet the international community stands silent. I mention this because nearly a century ago, the Armenians of Kesab suffered the same kind of fate when being displaced during the Armenian genocide of 1915. Mr. Speaker, if I have permission to read two brief articles. Latakia, Syria, May 1st. 6,000 refugees from Kesab are now at Latakia. Kesab has been practically destroyed. Second article. Antioch is quiet. There being no Armenians left in that town. The Armenian village of Kesab has been burned and many persons killed there. The women and children of Kesab are fugitives in the surrounding mountains exposed to hunger and mob violence. If I don't tell you what the dates are on these articles, it would almost be reading the New York Times from sometime this last month, had I especially not given the date. But these were respectively printed in the New York Times, May 2nd, 1909, and April 25th, 1909. After the Armenian genocide, the nations of the world vowed to prevent atrocities like the Armenian genocide and ensure that such crimes against humanity would never repeat, yet they failed to act today. The Turkish government wasn't held accountable then and still isn't being held accountable today. And as such, history has in some way sadly repeated itself. It has been said by international genocide scholars, and I echo the sentiment, that education about genocides past is the key to prevent genocides of the future. Developing educational resources regarding historical facts will certainly strengthen our country's resolve and prevent violations of human rights of various kinds, particularly crimes against humanity such as the Armenian genocide. Acknowledgement of crimes past is a prerequisite which leads to reconciliation between nations and collective forgiveness. The more future generations know about their history, the better off we all are in facing the future without a genocide. Thank you very much, and I ask for your support on this bill.